Good morning, everybody. I'll start again. Welcome to the Redesign Board of the Highland Council. You've got me in the chair this morning. We have apologies from Councillor Lobin. He's otherwise engaged, so be nice to me. We'll start by asking for apologies for absence.
Chair, there's also apologies from John Gibson of Unison, and Councillor Staggers is going to be on a train. She's going to try and connect, but may or may not come on there. And from Kate Lackey as well.
Okay, and do we have any declarations of interest? Okay, no declarations of interest. The minutes, can we note the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of May? Yep. Happy to note. Okay, and that takes us to the first item of business, which is the customer experience strategy. And we're going to get a little bit of an update from Alison, and then I believe also, Jane, you're going to be giving the members an update as well. So over to yourself, Alison. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. So the report in front of you is the draft customer experience strategy for the Council. This follows the redesign workshop that we had at the beginning of September. Before I hand over to Jane, members, just a bit of a reminder of the fact that this experience strategy is part of the overall My Council programme to provide the framework for My Council going forwards. So there's been significant work undertaken over the last 18 months in the development of the strategy, involving both our staff, yourselves as members, but also, very importantly, our customers as well. So, members, I'm going to hand over to Jane, who's going to take you through the outline of the strategy, but also critically the next steps about implementation and how we take this forward. Thank you.
Good morning, members. I present this paper to you today, not only as a member of the project team who've been tasked with delivering the customer experience strategy under the wider My Council programme, but also as the customer service delivery manager, and consider myself the voice and advocate for our frontline staff and customers whose insight, feedback and input has been invaluable to the design and content of this strategy. The strategy, or the way I'd like to put it, is the way of life we should be adopting, sets out a framework which underpins the other projects within the My Council programme, and it will embed a revised approach to customer contact throughout our organisation. What is customer experience? Customer experience describes all contact that a customer has with the Council, from initial contact through to the solution of request, no matter where you play your part as an officer, a member or a customer of the Council. We can all influence the experience that we have. The project team adopted the Scottish approach to service design methodology. We followed the steps of a discovery phase, a defining phase, developing and delivering. I would like to highlight the participatory approach and the data-led approach we took as a team to understand the current view of customer experience, the challenges that are faced and the aspirations that are being sought to be the best we can be. Surveys and focus groups covered more than 1,600 participants, and we listened to and, more importantly, heard the messages that were being relayed, and these have shaped the core aims of our strategy. We need to put the person at the centre of service design and delivery. Simply put, the customer should be at the centre of what we do. We need to make it easy for customers to contact us and to keep them updated as their inquiries progress. This message was very loud and clear. The aims of our strategy are to embed a customer experience in our organisational DNA, to make a change. Our people and development team are working on material to support our employees do this. Customer experience is to be designed and delivered. We must utilise technology to enable and aid service delivery. We should review our processes with a person-centred focus. To support a culture change and an organisational change of DNA for customer experience, a customer charter was also designed, and many of you input and fed back into that also. The feedback we gained reviewed best practice from across other local authorities and took into account what customers and our staff were telling us, and we were able to define what we feel good looks like, and we turned these into a meaningful customer charter. Our framework for success has been developed from these aims and will be applied universally across the Council. We will work in conjunction with the other strands of the My Council programme, such as the redesign of the website, improving our telephony systems, delivery of an online customer portal, and the publication of customer standards, which applies to all services from start to finish of a request. Finally, from my own personal customer service point of view, I firmly believe that to effect the positive change and create a council where services are designed and delivered with a person-centred approach, we must all adopt the philosophy that customer service is in our mindset, it's not a department, and this strategy will be the conduit to make this a reality and make the council the best customer experience it can be. Thank you.
Okay, members, you've got the report in front of you. Do we have any contributions to or queries for Jane or the team in respect of this report? Alistair?
I can't fault anything that's been said. I totally agree with it, but I think I'd like to see more flexibility built in. For instance, you know, when people can't get through to the council on any of the channels, they come to the local members, and we can tell when some weeks either the short staff, people are sick, or something new's happened. For instance, I think the last big one was Alan McKinney rolling out his new bins. Okay, people waiting 45 minutes, an hour to get through, can't get through, so contact the local councillor to find out what's happening. I think when it's winter and it's slippy, we all know that it's going to be inundated. I'd like to see some flexibility about scaling up the call centre when we're doing that, and I don't think there's any reference to that in there because that's additional resource. But I think when we're introducing something new or different, we know it's going to be busier, and we need to then, as you actually say, it's not a department, it's a mindset. We should be drawing in other departments to bolster up the frontline service to answer the calls. And I think that's a weakness in the strategy we've got here, that this is fine for every day, but when something happens that's like a bad winter, like a new bin rollout, then the call centre becomes overwhelmed and falls over. And I think we've got to find a way to stop it falling over by drawing on other departments to bolster it up.
Thanks, Alistair. Trish?
A comment really, we're a wee bit late to the party. Most organisations have gone customer centric up to 40 years ago. So we can't afford for this to be slow moving to get it into place. We need to really push this up the agenda and get it done quickly.
Okay, thanks very much. Alistair, would you mind moving that microphone down the table just in case? Trish is going Trish's voice is a bit challenged today. Sarah, online, if you don't mind.
Hi, this is a point of principle I wanted to raise during the work. Oh God, I'm sorry, I've gone during the workshop. That councillors are not employees of the council, and you know we have, if we don't do customer focused, we don't get re-elected. We're accountable to our electorate. By lumping us in to a council strategy, we're treating us like employees, and we're not employees. And I think that is fundamentally a point of principle. We have our own code of conduct to adhere to, and if people don't like us, they're not going to vote us back in. That's our form of accountability. We're elected in many ways to hold, you know, officers to account on behalf of the people who elect us. Do you know what I mean? I have a real problem with us being lumped in to everybody. And this happens, this isn't the first time this has happened, as if we're employees of the council when we're not. You know, Derek isn't our boss, we're kind of his boss. Do you just get my point? It's a point of democracy, really. I mean, the strategy and everything else is what it is. We all know the problems that are out there. You know, no one can get through on the phone. We need to use AI, all that kind of stuff. We need to be much more digitally savvy. But I think we can't be the same as employees because we're not. We're elected representatives. And I think that is very important. I mean, I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but that's my personal view. And that's a bigger issue outside maybe this half an hour that we've got.
Thanks, Sarah. Michael.
Thanks, Sarah. As was pointed out to me, our role is escalation. We're not there to sort of handle the day-to-day stuff. Our role is escalation. So that's how I view these things. If things have gone wrong, we're there to make sure that they're corrected, and that's it. So slightly disagree with you there, Sarah.
Okay, Bill.
Oh, Sarah, thanks for that comment, and we need to watch what we're doing, but as a member of this project, I don't feel as though I'm being lumped in at all with the users. I think the way I've been used on the project so far is to make contacts, to listen to what's coming from my public, and make sure that it's considered within the project, not
No,
lumped
I'm
in
thinking,
any-
you don't get my point. I'm not thinking about this. I'm thinking about 5 years' time when we're
Oh, yeah.
we're pulled in
Sarah,
front
2
of Derek
seconds.
for misbehaviour when we're actually it should be the other way around. If there's anything going, we're
Yeah.
elected.
I understand what you mean.
The public meeting.
Sarah, 2 seconds. Can you let one speak after the other? This is as Alistair says, this is a public meeting.
Yeah.
Bill.
That's all right. I think I misunderstood what Sarah was saying, and I'm totally in agreement with her when the implementation is taking place. But as part of the project, I certainly feel I've been really used in the correct way. I've been involved, talking to my constituents, getting their views. And by the way, I'll just mention while I'm at it, the feedback I'm getting for those who have been contacted and are directly involved is very positive. Not only about the working of the system that's been put forward to us, but the involvement that there is at this early stage in the project.
Okay, thanks very much, Bill, and thanks for the clarification, Sarah. I'm going to ask Alison if she would like to reflect on some of the points that were being made there. Thanks, Alison.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. Just a couple of comments. Just to be clear, the intention of the strategy, particularly from a member perspective, is recognising that members are customers of the council and customers in relation to how officers respond to them. So that's particularly the focus. When we talk about internal customers, we're meaning members as well as the organisation, but as recipients of information and how people contact them and respond to them. And I think that's something that was reflected in the workshop and something that's come up from yourselves as members really importantly. So when we're talking about customer standards and implementing customer standards across the organisation, it's about how we respond to members as well, which is really important. Councillor Robertson, you're absolutely right about the importance about moving quickly on this and embedding this as we go across the organisation. There's a recognition of the importance of this. It's reflected in the Council's delivery plan, and that will be monitored and reported on an ongoing basis. We might be agreeing the strategy, hopefully agreeing the strategy today, correct that, but the implementation of that is part of what we do around the wider My Council programme, and as Jane has outlined, the work strands that are going forwards around the web redesign, around the implementation of new telephony approaches, new portal, etc. That's all about part of that implementation going forwards, and it's important to keep the momentum as we go forwards. Councillor Christie, thank you for your comments. That one council approach is really important. It's something that's a core theme throughout the organisation, and how best we can respond to our customers when there are new things or when there are particular challenges that are coming up. So yeah, thank you very much for your comments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any other points in terms of the actual content of the report? Colin?
Thanks. Just, I don't have any further suggestions. I like this as a strategy and I'll be approving it. But I think looking at it as a Gaelic speaker, I liked the presentation, to be honest. I liked the bilingual headings. I thought they were really well done. I haven't seen that through many council strategies or documents, to be honest. And I think it enhances it. And I think it's a positive, maybe template for other strategies and documents.
Okay, any other comments? Remember, this is a project that's been worked through the redesign process, and that's why some of the points that we're making here is just clarification in terms of the document that's in front of us just now. Sarah, I absolutely note that you're not making it out to be a criticism of officers, and I'll note that on record that you want it to be seen in that light as well. Are we happy to agree the strategy as in the recommendations here? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much for that, and thanks to the officers for the work on that. I know that this is actually still going to be a fluid process within the redesign board as part of the My Council project. So, Alison, do you want to just clarify in terms of how this will be monitored within the redesign board process and also as part of My Council at Council?
Of course, thank you, Chair. Yes, so as I intimated a few moments ago, this will continue to be reported regularly, both through the redesign board and overall process. There are likely to be further workshops for members as we go forward, particularly with the web redesign. It's really important to continue to get members into the part as that project develops, and we'll be looking for your feedback as part of that process. So that redesign that we're going through, we'll be coming back regularly to yourselves as part of that, and updating about how that's progressing. It will also formally be reported through the delivery plan, and that will be both through the corporate solutions portfolio, get my tongue around that, to corporate resources committee, but also part of the delivery plan reporting to council as well. So there'll be a formal reporting.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll move on to the next item, which is food in schools. Alan, over to yourself.
Chair, good morning, members. Folks, the food in schools, there was a very well attended, well received workshop held on the 4th of September, and maybe just take this opportunity of thanking again all officers across a number of services who supported in the preparation of the work, including the presentation that you can find at Appendix 1. Members, the food in schools is part of the Council's delivery plan in terms of how we're looking to take things forward. But we're very keen that through the governance of the redesign board, the future progress is driven and governed, as I say, through your good selves. Members, at 5.6, there's a brief summary of some of the high-level data involved within food in schools, and it's not an insignificant service area in the council. There's just over 3 million meals provided a year, a cost of over 14 million, etc. So these are big numbers, but what's even more important than that is what you heard on the 4th of September, for those that were able to attend, was it cuts across so many possible policy areas in the council: health, welfare, education, waste, and you heard from Jane Park, for example, on the social determinants of health and where food actually plays a key part in that. I would also add a subject perhaps closer to my own heart in terms of what we've done within communities in place is a role in terms of food waste. And at 5.7 and 5.8 describes what we have been doing to try and improve our performance in terms of not just recycling, but the efficiency of how we collect and dispose of waste, including food. I suppose the challenge for us all, members, is how do we reduce the amount of food actually going to waste in the first place? And that's one of the things that we need to try and get into. So it's 6.1, and contrary to the recommendation where I referred to it as 5.1, that's a typo for me, forgive me. A range of next steps. Members, I would say these are just the immediate next steps. There will be others, and it's focusing very much on the outputs of the session. But I suppose we have to start from somewhere, and these are the recommended actions that we'll be able to take forward. And we'll also be looking to Sheila Armstrong, our Chief Officer for Revenues and Commercialisation, to be the lead with that, but also very much working within a project within the redesign and reporting through the redesign board itself. So, members, as I say, the recommended initial next steps are at 6.1 of this report. And again, thank everybody across the council for their help in preparing the work for yourselves up until now. And happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, Trish.
The take-up rates, we're never going to do anything with the take-up rates if we don't give the kids the. And we are hindered quite often by the regulations that go around what can be done. One thing that I found in the workshop that didn't actually come across, I don't know whether I missed it, was the fact that we have such a high dependence on nitrates and non-providing these. That can be rectified by making sure that our supplier gives us the right stuff, because the red meat it's artificially added to it. So if we're buying stuff that is not in that category, that's going to help us with that. 500 grams a week, I can't see us giving the kids more than 500 grams of red meat a week in any circumstance. Processed meat needs to be taken away, which we did talk about. But I'm going to focus mainly on the nitrates because even the chicken is injected with nitrates if you get it from the wrong source. So we have to stop that. We need to look at buying organic and buying local because these are less likely to have this in it. I would like you to know also though, that although we have said red meat needs to be reduced because of the nitrates, that there are actually naturally occurring nitrates in green leafy vegetables, which would suggest that salads may not be top of the push that onto the kids thing, and celery is another one, which I can't see many of them wanting anyway. And root veg itself has naturally occurring nitrates. So I think we've over-majored on the fact that nitrates is a problem here. And once that gets out, then you're going to get, no, well, if there's nitrates in the food, I'm not going to eat it. And they won't go. What they'll still do is go and get the stuff that's actually far worse than what we've suggested in here by getting the processed stuff at the supermarkets. Another thing that I don't know if we do have them or not, but I would like them removed please quickly, is microwaves. Because microwaves actually, if you heat any of the food in the microwave, you're going to increase the incidence of nitrates in it. So that needs to come out as well. I've done a wee bit of research on this. I probably should have done it before the workshop. But that's the way it goes. There's no link. There's no link with nitrates and cancer. I don't know if that's where the concern comes, but there is with stroke, heart attack, and diabetes. Diabetes, of course, is the big one that we need to address within our younger population. It comes to us all in the end if we have been neglectful about how we've eaten all the way through. So there's a lot of work to be done on this. And the operating model is probably where we're going to have to get most of the work done because we need to provide the best of stuff for our kids and educate them. Another, on the services, Alan, that you were talking about, I've discovered that actually cooking in school is not so easy as it should be because of the cost of the ingredients mainly. And the kids themselves are actually asking for more experience at cooking. Now that in itself would be useful for them going forward. And if they learn where their food's coming from to that extent that they're cooking it themselves, fine. Maybe more useless than growing the table, sort of thing. Probably the primary schools, because we probably can't do that in the secondaries. So there's a lot to do. Yeah, this is a big job.
Yeah. Thanks, Trish. My microwave is going in the bin as soon as I get home. Thanks very much. Alistair?
Yeah, thanks. Excuse the pun, but I don't think I'd know nitrate if it jumped up and bit me, to be honest. But I'll talk to Trish later.
I always thought nitrate was time and a half.
Yeah, but I'm not getting a lot of assurance from this report, and I don't really know what we're trying to do here. Are we trying to save money? Are we trying to increase uptake? Are we trying to promote and push healthier eating habits? Because all the three things I've mentioned are in conflict with each other. We said throughout the workshop that we wanted more involvement of children giving their views on what they want, and there's very little of that coming through as a theme in this report. It's not mentioned in the next steps. So if the theme is to promote healthier eating, healthier lifestyles, and we take on Trish's points about organics and nitrates and everything else, then the cost per meal is going to go up, in which case then the aim of trying to reduce the cost goes out the window. So I think really we need a clear steer as to what is the objective here. I don't think you can have all of them because I think they do all conflict with each other quite heavily on this. But I think really we spent so long in the workshop talking about what do the kids want, what do they regard as healthy eating, and I think we should be going down that path before we go to the next steps here to actually research it, because we'll do all the work under the sun, and they'll still go to Asda, Morrison's, Tesco's, the chip shop, even Scott Mid that's selling Harry Gow pies or whatever. They're going to go there. So I think we need to actually engage with the children and the young folk to see what would it take for them to stay in school. Now, they might say, we want pizza, chips and fried foods every day. Well, that's fine. We're not going to do that. But at least we know then that we're going to change our direction and we're going to take a different way forward on this. But I don't get any assurance from this as to what the hell we're doing on it, to be honest.
Before I go to the next councillor, I would expect that in terms of the working group that the Redesign Board always usually sets up to take a project like this forward, a lot of what actually Alistair was referring to there just now would be could actually be adopted as part of the process of determining outcomes in terms of this Redesign board item. So maybe like on that, and I'll bring some of the other councillors in.
Yep.
If that's okay, Alistair. Kate.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't at the previous workshop. It's not always possible when you're not so local. Just looking through this document, as I guess has been pointed out by Trish and Alistair, certainly from what I'm looking at, there seems to be more just the emphasis on waste, which of course is really important. But so I'm just wondering what the emphasis is on local procurement in terms of meat discussion. You know, are we looking at procuring local venison in each area, for example, which is a healthy and environmentally friendly meat option? It's coming off the hills, which needs to happen as well. There have been, I know some schools have been involved in programs of looking at, you know, from taking the animal off the hill to cooking a meal with it. So that's increasing their knowledge of where the food comes from, how it's prepared and eating it, so they get that knowledge. So there's many reasons, and you're supporting local suppliers as well. There are many venison larders starting up around the Highlands these days, and they're looking for, you know, a regular where their meat can be sold to keep their businesses going. So I guess obviously the waste is a big issue, but the local supply. Environmentally friendly, reducing carbon footprints, and also has there been any talk about plastic waste with this as well? You know, so much food is now coming in plastic, so it's not just the food waste; it's the plastic packaging waste that's a big issue as well. These three things in there. Sorry, I couldn't be at the workshop.
No, I still think it's important to pick up these points during the redesign process, no matter whether it's at the workshop or this actually discussing the paper here. Andrew.
I'm in agreement with Alice here that there is a confusion of aims of what it is we're trying to achieve with school meals. First of all, of course, is feeding. The children need to be fed. That's the main aim, surely. Whether they know where it's come from is a secondary issue. And a healthy meal that ends up in the bin is not much use to anybody. So we've got to provide food that they're going to eat. School meals, particularly free school meals, are targeted at the poorest people. And there are a lot of parents in that situation who depend upon their kids being fed at lunchtime, being fed by the school. If we get carried away with what I would call secondary issues, like where it came from, do they know where it came from? Do they know how it's processed? Do they know what happens to the waste? Then we're missing the main point, which is feeding the kids. You know, that's why they go to Morrison's, because they can eat it. So I think there's a confusion of aims here. We're getting from all sorts of places, you know, farm to table. What happens to the waste? You know, how's the animal looked after? Has it got the right proportion of whatever chemical is trendy at the moment? You know, I think we need to be clear with what it is we're trying to do. Only then can we look at the cost of it and saving money when we know what it is we're trying to do. If we're going to go and get organic food only, it's an argument all by itself. I've yet to see an inorganic carrot, but that's beside the point. They're all organic. Then that's going to cost more. So these are important decisions to be made only once we decide what our priority is. And what about kids who take packed lunch? Are they not to learn about farm to food? Only those school meals. You say do it in the primary classroom. You find the time. Primary schools only have a 24-hour day, and it's already filled with a lot of nonsense without adding more wasted time, you know. We're not concentrating on what we're doing. The point of primary education is a totally different argument to this.
Okay.
Less confusion, more ROE.
Sometimes I wonder if you've stopped or if you're just taking a big deep breath again.
And by the way, here comes the Gaelic translation.
Callum and Noah, and then Margaret online.
I don't actually think there's much confusion of aims here. The table in 6.1's got 4 actions, clear actions. What I think, though, is it's complex, and I wouldn't really agree. It's not just, we can't reduce it just to feeding the children. It's a complex set of variables here. Lots of work to be done. I agree with that. The objectives aren't in conflict, I would say, but there is a tension between all these different angles on this subject. And just for balance, I think too, does, to be fair, say that children's and young people's views will be taken into account. That's 6.4, that talks about undertaking targeted surveys. I think this is good. It's clear to me. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Colin. Margaret, morning.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not a member of your committee. You know, you can't push children what to eat. I know I brought up 9 children and they're all different. And I learned very early that not to fuss over children's fussy eating, because Dr. Nass said quite a number of years ago that children's change from the age of 7 to 13, and it's their food that they take, they dislike certain food. And I do think you make a big mistake. We don't make a big mistake. I've said it over the years. We don't ask the children what they want to eat. And, you know, you can't force them. And actually, it's very bad for them to force them. And once they get into teenagers, they'll try different things. And I know we're trying to save money, but at what expense? I think that that's wrong. And if you give them what they like to eat and what they will eat, and offer something else, you can maybe get them to eat something different. But at least we'll not be wasting food, which is really terrible. When I see the amount of food things that go out in some homes, it breaks my heart, because there are people starving all over the world. So I think we have to look into this better. I agree with Councillor Christie with what he said, and I think we should spend a bit of time, maybe in the schools, getting the children all to tick boxes what they like and start giving them what they will eat. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Margaret. Barbara.
Morning all, thank you.
Morning.
The key bits that stand out for me are the 2 points. Oh, hold on a second. Time to eat. So if you do not have reasonable time to eat, they will not eat. That's the killer. And the bits, the other circle, kids want independence and choice. You know, this is, we need to go with the kids' child-led thing here, which is in many other policies and strategies. I would like to know, with the topic of food waste, which we all want to avoid, how much food waste in there is there directly from the kitchen into the bin, as opposed from the kids' plates into the bin? I think that needs looked at. I think what I really, really cannot stand is the prison trays that kids are given their food on. Absolutely nothing looks appetising on that. No home would ever have it. No restaurant or any place would have it. They'd rather eat it out of a McDonald's box, quite honestly, than those prison trays. It's off-putting. The limited time to eat, and the fact they actually can't get a seat at the table, because our eating areas are not designed for all the kids that need to actually eat, and it's a rush thing. Kids go to the shop, like I know they go from up to Asda and stuff. Locally, they go to the co-op. All these places where you can buy food are within walking distance. And part of that, the walking, is it's a sociable experience during the walk. And when you have echoey eating areas, because they're always high ceiling, it's the gym hall and everything echoes, you actually can't have a conversation, which kind of kills the art of conversation. It's now, and we shouldn't be discouraging them going out into fresh air, but keep them within the school. So outdoor eating areas would be, we should expand on that. In Italy, the whole Montessori way of education, where kids from an early age are in the kitchens. The kitchen is like the schools are like a home, the nurseries are like a home. The kitchen is open, they're seeing the entire process of food coming into the kitchen, being made, and they are included in the making. Our kids should be helping make the food. Currently, there's the schools are doing the MasterChef thing, which is fantastic, getting kids into cooking, into food, learning about food and nutrition and presenting it nicely. However, it's an annual thing. I think it should be a weekly thing. And I think kids should be in the kitchen and maybe do on the menu on a Friday, surprise Friday, the kids go in, what is in the fridge that is left over, that is going to go to waste, probably. But things like, oh, there's some chicken, there's some pasta, there's some peppers, there's some, they could make pasta, they could make pizza, but let it be a surprise thing, come from the kids. And that gets presented on a Friday, and we have a Friday MasterChef award for kids in schools. Won't cost any more money. Will save money as you're using what's in the kitchen. I think we actually should have things like herbs growing within the eating areas, yes, to make it pleasant, to make it a pleasant experience. It's a horrible area. It's life skills is getting kids involved in making and handling the actual food in a nice way and actually setting a table. You know, like you would at home. We need to get back into stuff like that, the normal things in life. And I agree with Trish, we really should be spending 100% local. We're surrounded by farmers. We have excellent food running about in the fields and growing in the fields. It'd be much fresher, much higher in vitamins because it's straight to the schools. And we shouldn't be buying our over-sterilised meats. We should be buying local and our local fruit and veg. And salads really need to be more than a lettuce leaf and a little bit of tomato. Stick melon in there, give them radishes, give them other things. You know, get a little bit more adventurous in the offerings and get them interested more in food. Grated carrot. Have the kids making coleslaw. You know, what's wrong with that? It's engage the kids in the process, and I think we'll have better outcomes.
Thank you, Barbara. I see that you have managed to get a copy of my egg timer. It's that's absolutely fantastic. Just to remind members, this is the Redesign Board. You are not limited on time for your contributions, and they're all welcome. I thought that, Barbara, for a minute there, you were going to say train them to do the washing up as well and put the dishes away at the end of it.
Yes. Yes, why not? It's a life skill. I think, why not have them cleaning the kitchen? It's a life skill. Cleaning, cooking, dishwashing, excellent one.
There we go.
Cleaning chimneys.
Yes, why not? No, life skills our kids lack it, and that's why they can't cope when they leave school.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Love your egg timer.
Cheers. Alan, would you like to reflect on some of the points?
Yeah, 10 minutes on.
I think similar to the workshop, I don't know if there's a subject that it provides so many differing views across a range of things. I think fundamentally, what the data did show is, whilst our take-up rates of free school meals across Highland is actually not too bad compared to other parts of Highland, right? There are still thousands of kids not taking up a free school meal. And part of the question is, why is that? And there's a cost to the council for that, members, because our take-up rate has a direct impact on our share of the grant-aided expenditure that we get from Scottish Government to provide school meals. So actually, there's a way we could actually increase our income more than increase our costs by increasing take-up. Now, it's a really complicated matter, and I did not want to get into that in this paper because A, that would be extremely complicated and difficult to present at this stage because we're still learning, getting our heads around some of the numbers. But the other bit for me, folks, was I deliberately did not want to prejudge the outcome of what the project team would want to take this forward. The project team, which would be led by Sheila, with some members from the Redesign Board and officers, and for them to set not just some of the key actions they'd be looking to do, including the ones in this document, but also the prioritisation of them. And I deliberately put take-up rates as the first one. I didn't put cost or income generation, I put take-up rates, because for me, that was one of the drivers, Alice, of what we've got to try and, we need to increase it. So we can't give away our food for free. That's what's happening. There's over 3,000 kids in P1 to P5 not taking out a free school meal. So I asked, what are we doing about that? What are we doing? And it's not just we in this room or we in the communities. And that's why I was also particularly keen at 6.4 to say targeted services working through Kate and the people cluster of asking the very people that use the service. That's why I included that specifically, to ask their views, to better understand their views, their behaviours and opportunities. Now, there's various ways in which we could do that, and I could have included that here, but I would rather actually have the nominated members that work with Sheila and the team, for them to put, if you pardon the pun, meat on the bones of this, for them to do that. So it was deliberate in terms of a brief report to say, look, this is the strategic direction we want to take. Other actions it does will develop over time. I don't want to be seen as prejudging that. I would rather let the data take us through, and the data and information take us to that conclusion. And I think that's really, really important. It's also important to say, who do you actually survey? Is it the kids? Is it the children, the young people, the parents, the teachers, the catering staff that I know Sue and Bob Gray have regular conversations with their staff to better understand where they can do better. And I think because of that is why, in terms of take-up rates, it's pretty good compared to across Scotland. And credit to them for that. But we can always do better, and we need to try and understand that. It is a very emotive subject here about in terms of the types of food, where the food is, etc. Local provision, procurement, frozen versus fresh. I don't claim to be an expert on that, and I certainly don't claim, Trish, to understanding nitrates, etc. But maybe there's something in there about educating our people more on how we eat, what we eat, etc. And I would say some of the benefits for what we need out of this might not be seen in the next 1 or 2 years. It might be 4, 5, 6, 10 years. That's not the reason why we don't do it.
Okay, thanks very much. Marvin, do you want to make a contribution?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not a member of your committee.
Everybody's a member of the redesign process.
Are we?
Yeah, of the redesign process.
Oh, process, okay. I'm going to first start with prison trays. I think while we look at those trays and think that they might look ugly and might not want to eat our meals off those trays, a lot of children, particularly younger children, do not like their food touching. So it's better to serve food separate and then they can choose food that they want. It does encourage better eating. In terms of the preschool meals, I know a lot of parents insist their children have the preschool meals when they're in the younger years, and as soon as they don't qualify for the pre-provision, they insist that they take back lunch because they can deliver that cheaper. And I think that's really unfortunate. I think it's really important and healthy for children to be eating together as part of the social interaction in school. I know that's harder in secondary schools because we don't have dining rooms as we would like them. But certainly in the nursery and early years, it's really good for children to be together. And a lot of schools actually have separate packed lunch areas as to the children having a hot meal. And that's something that's worth considering. But trying to encourage people to keep putting their children for preschool meals, hot meals, would be good to try, and that's what you're talking about, Alan. How do we get that uptake on what they're doing? What would be interesting to know is what the children actually choose to eat. I know when my kids were in primary school, I would speak to the cook there, and she would know when she would have a good uptake, what days she would have a good uptake, and what days she would not, because she knew that the kids would eat fish and chips, but they wouldn't have the coordinates or whatever it was. So it'd be interesting to have a little look at the menu choices and the days that you're busiest. In terms of what's been said about the quality, again, speaking to the catering staff, I know they're incredibly proud of the meals that they produce and what they offer. Again, when the kids were in Below, we would have, we did have parent meetings with the catering staff who would tell us about the quality of the food, the finest meats. The ham baguettes, I remember, I mean, if you're buying them, they're better than markets. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think quality is an issue, and certainly speaking to the staff who are delivering it is worth doing. Cooking, I think it's great, and I know we had that conversation last night, Derek Council, Trish, the delivering the opportunity for children to cook more in school is not about school meals, that's an education issue, but it's something else we need to take up separately. But I do think there's a point where parents need to have a responsibility to introduce food to their children and do cooking at home as well. I think that's a real thing to ask in schools. One thing that we did at Parent Council years ago was asked about, and I think we did do it actually, was invite parents into the school to taste school meals, so they knew what the wee Johnny was going to have. A lot of the time you'll say, oh, my kid doesn't like that, my child's not, so don't put them in. But actually getting parents in to do a sample of various meals, that definitely works. So it's and the other thing I'd like to say is, I think the figures on there, the numbers of adults having free school meals, I don't understand that. Could you explain a bit of that to me?
Just before we get somebody to answer your question, Jackie?
Thank you. Yeah, the workshop we had here was really good, and it was great for us all to have the opportunity to discuss this issue, which is actually a really big project. My understanding is there's going to be a working group now to
Jackie, if you just stop for a second. Emma, if you can mute your mic online, please, thanks.
Yes, so there'll be a working group, and they've got these actions to do. There is an element of risk in it with what they come forward with. There is a risk, obviously, that the young people and the children won't take it up. So my question is, would you consider, once the model is formed, that there would be like maybe 2 pilot schools, like a primary school and an academy, where this is trialled for say 6 months or something, to keep the costs down a bit? Because if we're going to roll out something across the whole of the Highlands and it doesn't work, then that's not good. But if you all come up with good ideas and everything and able to keep the costs down, but try just 2 schools for a while and just see what happens, and there's publicity around it and things, and we get feedback, and then look into rolling it out further. I just wonder if that would be considered.
Okay, there's nobody else that's indicated that they want to speak to this. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Maureen.
No, I spoke to our local primary schools about a fortnight ago. We were having a wee talk about the councillor, and I asked them what sort of questions they would like to put to Highland Council, and actually their lunches came up, and some of them said we didn't like the lunches, others said okay, and I said to them, well, would it be an idea to do a wee survey in the school with the child council that they had, and tell us what sort of things they would like for their lunch? So we were all up for this idea. I haven't followed it through, but you know, the children, it's getting their ideas, I think, is quite important, because they're going to be the ones that are eating the lunches. So maybe I agree with Jackie there. I think that's a good idea, what Jackie just said. But if we could maybe engage with a few schools and say, can you talk to the children and do a wee survey, what sort of meals they would like, and sort of collate that and see
fish and chips, I think, won't come out pretty high. Pizza will probably come out quite high as well. But then it's getting the right ingredients into these meals. So children are interested because they were primary 5, 6 and 7 that I spoke to.
Okay, thanks very much. Kate, I'm sorry, it doesn't look as though my laptop is now connected to the actual meeting, so I'm not seeing online hands. Kate?
Thanks. There's an elephant in the room here, which is around food waste. I spoke to a janitor who covers several primary schools, and he said regularly, and it's because of legislation, I believe, not through willfulness, but whole trays of lasagna get binned, and they get binned and not even food recycled. They can't pass it on because the cook has responsibility for getting food at the right temperature to the person who eats it. Now, we've got a lot of poverty in both urban and rural areas, and I would like to think that wasted food gets less wasted by being available to folk to come and collect. Perhaps after school lunches they could put it in takeaway tins. Thanks.
Thanks. The last speaker is going to be Michael, and then I'm going to ask the officers to reflect on it. It's good, lots of contributions there by members, and then also if you would like to reflect on the next steps forward, we'll be looking for a couple of members to take up the mantle of being part of the working group going forward. So, Alan, yourself? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Michael.
Just very, very briefly, a lot of very valuable anecdotal feedback from members. But if I was looking at this, I would use ChatGPT or AI, and I would ask it, because it's the sum of all knowledge out there in the public domain, and all these arguments, discussions have been done so many times. I would put it in the top 10, top 20 reasons why food is such a poor uptake, and it will amaze you the level of detail you get once you start to ask more questions and more questions. The information's out there. Anecdotal is vitally important, but it's all out there, and I would suggest that maybe that's a thing that we should be looking at.
Okay, Alan?
Yeah, in terms more relation to Christian adults, also you can see on page 54 of the papers, it includes that catering service obviously provides services to more than just the schools. It's like hospice, etc. So there's some of that's where the adult charges can come in. Jack, in terms of suggestion, absolutely spot on. The way I would see this working is the project team together would look at this analysis, come up with suggested changes, recommendations, report into Redesign board. I think the most important bit though is when you do implement any changes, is that you do it in small chunks, if you like, to try and prove the concept. So having a couple of schools, for example, say for instance, some schools think in changing the lunch break by 10-15 minutes to see if that helps, just as a hypothetical idea, and then see, well, would it actually help? And balancing that with attainment and free school meals, etc. So I think the principle of your idea and suggestion is absolutely fine, but what I would do is I'd leave that to the project team to come up forward, do the analysis, come up with suggestions, and further reports to the Redesign board, including a suggested implementation plan for that very idea. Because we certainly wouldn't want to roll anything out across Highland without establishing that it actually works. What I'd also say as well is reflect with such a complicated scenario, you can see where some schools have much higher take-up in free school meals than others, but sometimes that can be the proximity of other, supermarkets, etc. So there's a whole host of reasons in this. So it may well be any changes we implement are very much following like more a place-based approach. Something may work in this area but not work in this area for various reasons, and we just, as we dig deeper, we'll understand some of that a bit more for members. I think that's particularly important. But finally, as I say, Chair, you're very welcome to a couple of nominations for members to sit this week, and through the leadership of Sheila, I'm sure the group will, an early meeting will be called, and that will agree, finalise the scope, prioritisation, etc., and the work that's going to be done. So appreciate the feedback today. Thank you.
Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll ask members to put their names forward if they want to be included in this to the convener, the chair of this committee, and we'll get an idea of the folks that would like to be part of this working group going forward, if that's okay, because we are a bit short of time. And we have got a workshop session now. Everybody okay just to move on the recommendation?
Sorry, is it too radical to actually suggest that we have some senior children in the senior phase of their education on the working group, or as they are the ultimate customer, if we go back to the previous report?
Can I make a suggestion that that's noted, because you said that earlier on, and that could be considered by the working group going forward, because I think it was a valid point, Alistair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, I think a bit more than that. I'm very suspicious of this administration. I think, as a matter of principle, I don't want the working group to consider. I think as a matter of principle, we should decide whether children in the senior phase of education can be on the group.
I'm not opposed to it.
Well, let's agree then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The working group will consider that going forward now.
No, they will implement it going forward.
Okay, we'll look at the community support and engagement restructure review. Now, I noticed that there are a number of members that are online. There's about 15 of them.
They get cut. They get cut.
Yeah, I'm sorry, members. Those of you who are online, we're going into a workshop environment now, and it is an in-person. That was stated to be in-person. So, thanks very much for joining for the redesign board today, and we'll catch up with you later on. Thanks very much. Can we stop?